Welcome back to Tethered and Whole, the podcast where we explore how educators can remain grounded, resilient, and deeply human in a profession that often feels overwhelming. I'm your host, Matt Weld, and today I want to talk about something that has shaped how I see the world, something first discovered as a child through the story of Luther Burbank, one of history's most influential horticulturists. When I was young, I read a book about Burbank, the man behind the Burbank potato, which is the brown ones that we see in the grocery store these days, the Shasta daisy, those big white ones that you see in everyone's gardens, and more than 800 other plant varieties. His gift wasn't brute force or luck. It was observation. Burbank didn't look at a field of daisies and see sameness. He noticed subtle differences. One bloomed slightly taller, another with thicker petals, one with a color that stood out. He saved the seeds, he crossed the seeds, he crossed the flowers. He saved the seeds, he cross-pollinated and made hybrids. He nurtured the variations and eventually created entirely new flowers and fruits. As a child, mind blown. I remember walking by the lake near my home and finding a single wild aster with petals just a little fuller than the rest. Now, I didn't save the seed, but I remember the wonder, realizing that hidden variety exists everywhere, if only we look a little closer. So here's what I want to talk about today, and that is spectrum thinking. Because it's easier, so much easier to think in absolutes. When my wife asks how my day was, it's quicker to say good or terrible than it is to give an honest, nuanced answer. Our culture loves headlines like the 7 best foods for your heart, or maybe the 5 worst foods for arthritis. But technically, and this is the English language arts teacher in me, there can only be one best or one worst. Life, however, is never that simple. It exists on a spectrum. When we reduce everything to good or bad, best or worst, right or wrong, we're actually distorting the truth. Take body image as an example. Our society often frames it as thin equals good, fat equals bad. But where's the line? Clothing sizes run from extra, extra small to extra, extra, extra large, and everybody in between is a real person. The spectrum, friends, that's the truth. The binary, that's the distortion. Or think about relationships. When we see our partner's unfavorable action on a spectrum, it might be an annoyance, not a catastrophe. But for those of us who grow up with extremes, maybe rage on one side, silence on the other, finding the middle ground is, well, it's hard. And we learn absolutes early on. And the same goes for emotions. Brené Brown has shown that most adults can only identify 3 of them: happy, sad, or mad. But a feeling wheel shows hundreds. Surprised can be amazed, confused, shocked, or maybe even dismayed. And if we can't name the nuance, we can't truly understand ourselves or help our students name what they're feeling either. As educators, spectrum thinking is powerful. We talk about being data-driven, yet we know that zero tolerance policies, which is an absolute, they have failed. Our legal system gets this. We have 9 Supreme Court justices, 12 jurors, and multiple witnesses because we know that it takes many perspectives to reach the truth. And the same should be true in schools. Instead of good kid or bad kid, spectrum thinking lets us see each student as a learner on a continuum. A child who misbehaves one day might thrive the next. Discipline doesn't have to mean punishment. It might mean, redirection or support or simply another chance. And when we apply spectrum thinking to ourselves, it can reshape self-care. Too often we evaluate our own well-being in extremes. I'm fine, or I'm burned out. But self-care isn't an all or nothing thing. It's a sliding scale. Maybe you're slightly drained, or somewhat discouraged, or mildly energized. Each of those calls for a different response. A walk, a boundary, a conversation, not an overhaul. Spectrum thinking gives us permission, also, to live in the middle spaces, where life is actually lived. So friends, here's my invitation for you this week. Notice the spectrum. When you describe your mood, go deeper than good or bad. When you look at your students, resist the urge to label and see them instead as unfolding, just like Burbank's flowers. When you check in on your own well-being, honor the small shifts. Because when we see in spectrums instead of absolutes, we honor the full complexity of life. And that's where deeper learning, stronger relationships, and genuine resilience live. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Tethered and Whole. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a colleague who might need the reminder that life is actually nuanced and that we don't have to live in the extremes. So until next time, stay tethered